We're now going to talk about the market, the current state of the market down south, across the water. We have two people who know all about it. We're going to hear shortly from Carolyn Boyd from Tourism NI, but first Cormac O'Sullivan from Tourism Ireland. Cormac.
Thanks, Mark. My name is Cormac O'Sullivan. I work in the GB team for Tourism Ireland, working out of the London office, and I'm going to talk to you today about a GB review that we've conducted and the strategy that's come about as a result. It was launched in June 2019. The ambition throughout the review process was to increase GB holidaymakers and holidaymaker revenue while driving regional growth and season extension. To do this, we used an evidence-led overlap model to guide our thinking, incorporating the trade, industry, and consumer insights. Essentially, this looked at what our strengths were from a tourism product point of view, looked at the actual behaviours of the GB visitor from research that we had, and then we conducted bespoke research to see what the needs and motivations of the GB consumer is. And from that, we were able to see what overlapped, and that essentially, looked at what our strategy would be. Collaboration has been absolutely massive in getting the strategy to where it is now, but even more so going forward, that it'll be implemented. So working with the guys in Tourism Northern Ireland, NETA, Fáilte Ireland, and ITIC have been really, really key in getting it to this point. So I suppose this led us to our core strategy, which was unlock the lifetime value of the GB holidaymaker. So from research, we've seen that the GB holidaymaker will come back to Ireland 2 or 3 times during their lifetime. So we really need to maximise that. That could lead to the potential of a 25% increase in holiday revenue to the island of Ireland and 33% to Northern Ireland. What does that look like in actual figures? So that would be 613 million and 116 million to Northern Ireland specifically. I suppose, how are we actually going to do that though? How are we going to unlock the lifetime value of the GB holidaymaker? We've identified 4 key enablers that will let us do that. The first one is identifying and build ongoing relationships with the GB holidaymaker. So from the research, we found that the repeat visitor is really important to creating this revenue. As you can see from this table, the repeat visitor, they spend longer and they spend more, and they're more likely to visit the regions. So the really key here is to tailor our communication specifically to meet those needs. So, for an example, we ran a campaign with Secret Escapes earlier on this year in autumn, where we had 2 completely separate creatives. Because we could target a person who hadn't been to Ireland before, and we could target somebody who had been to Ireland before, we could tailor the communications to give the regional message or the more urban message, depending on who we were targeting. Creating the hub experience, the compelling reasons to go beyond the city centres on the island of Ireland, and that's really important for you guys to work with Carolyn and her team to create the really compelling reasons, and then further develop the appropriate access to and within the island of Ireland. So, like, a really key thing that came out of the research was the GB consumer wants their short break to be easy, different, but not difficult. So we need to work with the airlines to make sure that the regional routes are still coming in. They're supported through marketing campaigns, but also when the GB consumer gets on the island of Ireland, that the transport links are there for them to get them where they need to go. A couple of more stats, I suppose, just to highlight the importance of the GB market. 31% of all holiday makers into the island of Ireland come from the GB market, and that represents 18% of all revenue. They support the regions extensively, and they also, really importantly, support season extension. 43% of GB holiday makers will come between October and March, which is absolutely key in the off-season. So we want to maintain that and grow that through this strategy. I'm around later at the breakout session if you have any questions on the strategy or anything about the GB market, and I'll answer your questions then. And so I'd like to pass it over to Carolyn Boyd, who is going to talk to you more about the domestic market and ROI.
Morning, everyone. Oh, you look very good from up here. It's amazing, and again, the hotel looks splendid, so thank you for everybody for making us welcome today. I just wanted to touch on the fact that other markets are available. Obviously, the GB review and the research is just very recent, and it's a great pleasure because I'm actually working with both Tourism Ireland and Fulsh Ireland to produce a toolkit and some information about the GB market to make it really accessible for you, and that you'll see that in January. As you all know, we did a lot of work this year on the ROI market. We had a massive review and research of the ROI market, and I really think that slides have gone. Oh, there we go, thank you. Just in terms of the ROI market, and it was staggering when we did some research about how few people were coming up from south of Ireland to visit us. What we can explain, I'm not going to go through all the stats, but that is actually up 23%. So it's starting, and that's from stats from last year. I would say if we do a review of this year, it'll be even more. So our partners in the south of Ireland are certainly exploring Northern Ireland, and they seem to be liking what they see. But again, there's a lot of research, there's toolkits there about what they're seeing, where they're spending their money. But there's 108 million spend from this market, so it is significant as well. And again, you'll find these toolkits. Please do not ignore our domestic market, and I think that's really, really important. It actually accounts for 56% of all our overnight trips. So, and again, because what we're saying here today is if you're looking at your own business, it's looking at the marketing mix. So where are your people coming from? What are they saying to you? Are you recording them? Are you actually using those to look at the channels that you're targeting? And, you know, if 56% of people that are holidaying at home are coming to your business, then I think that's really important, that you need to make sure that they're having a great time and that the experience you develop is resonating with them as well. One exciting thing that we did as well is we have a lot of research, and sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, which is why we've tried to kind of break it down. We have a really, really good visitor attitude survey, and why it's significant is that people ask us about our surveys and say, what's the sample size? We're always being asked, you know, what's the sample size? Well, this is 2,950 people who are interviewed at either entry points or exit points, mainly at all our ports and airports, and I think that's quite robust. So that's done between June and October last year, and for me this is really interesting because it's like asking people what did they think, what were they expecting when they come to Northern Ireland, and what do they think of Northern Ireland when they're leaving. And we asked them things like, would they come back, where are they staying, what do they think of the food, you know, what did they see and do. And some of the really interesting information that I've just pulled out is that 66% of people that surveyed were coming to Northern Ireland for the first time. So, and I don't know what it's like in your own business, but isn't that massive potential? So 66% of the people that travelled between June and October were coming here for the very first time, and we've got to get it right. And I hope we did get it right and that they all are set to come back. And if they were GB, we know that those people will come back, and that's a massive opportunity as well. So it tells us about the age profiles, it looks at the segmentation, it tells us who's coming, what they did. Now 63% of those people also visited ROI, which is significant as well. So they're doing an all of Ireland experience, and that's why collaboration working with Tourism Ireland and Fulsh Ireland is so important, because they're coming to digest you know, Ireland in its entirety. And yes, we have to make things different in the north from the south, but we also have to realise that they are visiting Ireland and we want them to come back. We don't want them to tick a box and say, we did Ireland and we'll never be back. So I think if you do nothing else today is have a look at the visitor attitude survey that is there. There's quite a lot of information. It does dip into the regions as well. It will give you ratings on what the food experience was like, the accommodation was like as well. So it's all there. And finally, just what I want to say is, you know, Dave's teed up the TED programme, which we hope will get more exciting as time goes on. We have announcing some workshops, and these will be limited in terms of numbers, folks, so we will be posting these very soon. And the topics that we've picked up, and this is from research, is SEO social media, which is obviously never going to go away, and trying to demystify that for you. Everybody's talking about Google, and I know that Google are doing some things that we need to be mindful of, so we're going to do some work with Google. And for the first time, we're going to do some video production, which is a bit different because a lot of people are saying that that's how the consumer wants to see. We know that that's very popular. Some people are producing videos at the minute that aren't having any reach, and maybe they're not on the right platforms or the right channels, but maybe they're just not very good in quality. So we're trying to get people in a studio to try to help them with video content and editing as well, which is a skill in itself. We will be launching a sales and marketing program. It's our growth program as well. And as Dave said, we will be rolling out the Experience brand from January onwards, which is very exciting. And there will be a lot of different assets and toolkits there just to try to make us wrap. We understand from the ROI, and people have been saying to me, there's 5 brands now in the south with Wild Atlantic Way and Ireland's H States. Where is our brand? Well, we can say now that we have one, and we will be making sure that you're all made aware of that. So that's me, folks. I'm obviously around all day. If anybody wants to know how to access any of the information or get on the programmes, please just come and have a chat to me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. Thank you to Cormac as well. And as they both said, you will be available during that period after lunch as well. Hotels Federation is here too, so lots of people to answer any questions that you may have. Speaking of, another quick reminder of Slido.com. Slido.com. The code, if you missed it earlier, is F025. F025. Okay. As I've mentioned, probably too many times already, we have leading lights from the online travel industry actually in the room today. Let me introduce you to a few of them for our first panel. We're going to hear from Rosie Henderson from Expedia, John Gavin from lastminute.com, and then Alan Bullock from booking.com. One by one, they're going to come up and tell us a little bit about themselves and their company, and then they're going to join the panel. But we're going to start at the very beginning from Expedia, Rosie Henderson. Rosie, good morning to you.
Okay, well, thanks very much for having me here today, and I know that I actually only have 5 minutes, so I'll keep it nice and short and sweet. But yeah, my name's Rosie. I've actually been with the Expedia account management team for 2.5 years now, but it's actually since the start of October that I've started looking after Northern Ireland, so if there's anyone that hasn't met me before, don't worry, I'll be knocking on your door soon. But with me here today as well, I have Sandra Sutton, who is our overall area manager for Ireland and Wales. We have Monique Lee, who is actually part of our Expedia local expert team, and it's actually the local expert team that look after the activities and attractions piece. So if there's anyone here today representing an activity, do stick around for the second panel, as Monique will be speaking on that. And finally, we also have Catherine, who is part of our media solutions team and is really the driving force behind a lot of the work that we would do with Tourism Ireland and Tourism NI. So that's a bit about us. Expedia Group in general, well, we are the world's largest online travel agent, and our aim is to bring the world within reach for the consumer, but also to bring the consumer within reach to the provider. How we do that is, number one, through the power of the number of brands that we actually own. Expedia and Hotels.com are probably the most recognisable to everyone here today. But in the bid to be locally relevant as well, we have a lot of smaller brands that would have particular strength in certain countries. So What If, for example, is particularly big in Australia. We also pride ourselves on being a multi-product service as well. So we're the one-stop shop for your hotel, your flight, car rental and activity all in one. And we offer flexibility in terms of how you can book that, whether it's desktop or mobile. If we kind of step back from Expedia Group specifically, though, I think it's important to remember that for the OTAs in general, when it comes to the overall shopping experience, we take up about 30% of that experience. So even if you never make a booking on an OTA ever, chances are you're still checking in to see what's going on. So to dive a little bit more into Expedia in Northern Ireland specifically, demand through Expedia is actually up 16% year on year, which is great considering we have, dare I say it, that big word Brexit. But it's great to see that in light of those challenges, our share continues to grow. So our UK business is a strong base business for us. It's actually up 17% so far this year. And then we also have our international business, such as the US and Canada, which continues to grow at a healthy 5% as well. To delve a little bit deeper, and I know this presentation is probably going to be sent out later as well if you need to have a little look at the stats in more depth, but these are the top 5 nationalities that we have coming into Northern Ireland presently, along with their average booking windows, ADR and length of stay. And what we always try to focus on is that, yes, the UK business is very much our base business and it's very important to hold on to that, but don't forget about the international business as well, because you'll actually find that generally their booking window is longer, the ADR higher, and the length of stay is longer as well. So that's for hotel bookings only. But if we factor in flights to that as well, so with Expedia we have the option to sell your accommodation in a package along with flights as well, and you'll generally find that the booking window, length of stay and ADR increases quite nicely as well. So the power of package is really important and it's something that we really focus on. This lovely graph shows ADR yield for Northern Ireland with Expedia. So across the bottom we have the average booking windows. The green bars represent the percentage of bookings that are actually coming in at that booking window, and then the line is representative of the average ADR that we see coming in. So this is something I would tend to hone in with hotel partners quite a lot, is that consider doing, if you're going to do promotions, merchandising, whatever it might be, consider doing it on the longer booking window. Give yourself the room to discount the ADR as opposed to panicking last minute in the 0 to 6 day mark and dropping your rates last minute. So, in the interest of time, future opportunities. In Expedia, we talk a lot about the power of 3. So this is your power of 3 for the day. So 3 things to take away. Number 1 is package. Consider your package rates. Are you offering a discount to bring the business in earlier? Are you actually available to be booked as part of a package? Campaigns is the other big thing. We do a lot of work with Tourism Ireland, Tourism NI, a lot of promotions and takeovers and points of sale. So if you ever see any communication from us in regards to upcoming campaigns, definitely consider getting involved in those. And then I suppose to kind of hone in on the content side of things as well, we always say content is king. Make sure your photos are up to date, your descriptions are up to date. And to add to that as well, how properties are displayed on Expedia is starting to change slightly. We're introducing a theme option. So in the extranet, you'll have the option to add themes to your properties, whether it's particularly romantic, if it has a spa, if it's particularly good for business travellers, so that instead of just focusing on the cheapest rate on any given day, you're actually specifically targeting the type of customer that you want. So that's my power 3, and that's all from me. So thanks very much.
Rosie, thank you very much indeed. Next, representing lastminute.com, John Gavin, Regional Head of UK and Ireland for lastminute.com. John, welcome back.
Hello, everybody. So again, time constraints, only 5 minutes. I'll rattle through what the quite large number of slides that I have. So for those of you who are not overly familiar with lastminute.com, our story began in 1998. When, just as the name suggests, lastminute.com, we were focused on the last minute. We were very much a UK-centric, almost London-centric company, selling theatre tickets at the very last moment, hotel rooms in London specifically, restaurants and so on, even gift ideas on the 13th of February for Valentine's Day at the very last moment. Over the ensuing decade, this changed dramatically. So we became a much more UK-centric. We've fanned out across all of the UK into Europe. We had lastminute.fr.ie, ITES, so right across Europe, and all of the main destinations across Europe. We started to sell flights as well. By 2010, we were very much a pan-European organisation. Now, things have changed even more dramatically today. So by 2010, we would have been approximately 70% hotel only and only about 30% package business. That has changed dramatically. So today, our ownership is now a Swiss-based company, which started in 2004, a company called Volagratis, who were known at the time as the Bravo Fly Rumbo Group. They floated in 2014, and with the money raised in the IPO, they purchased lastminute.com in order to build themselves a brand, which they hadn't had a particularly strong brand up until that point, nor did they really have a UK footprint. So today, with their expertise in flight, which is where they were completely flight-centric, we now are very much in the DP business. So our package business today is 80% of what we do. So moving on. So what do we actually do? We have pre-packaged tour operator and cruise packages that we have on the website. We have obviously accommodation and transport through flight, which the customer is able to package. And again, moving on, sorry, so what's new? So from February of next year, we've taken over the London Eye. So this is a drive to drive the brand still further. We're proud that this is going to be for a 3-year project. What else is new? So we now also have, this is not a credit card, by the way. So the lastminute.com card is, if anyone's familiar with Revolut, this is a card which you can move money onto the card from your, it's very much a debit card. So for example, if you were traveling to the Czech Republic, you could transfer money from your current account onto this card in the local currency, krona, no cost, and then use this card on arrival. Moving on again. So through our expertise in flights, we're now working with, a lot of people might not realize, Booking.com, for example, where we're now providing a flight solution on their UK website and more recently on their Irish website. Also, we're offering hotel chains. This example here is a Palladium chain in Spain, where we're offering them flights. So a hotel chain is now able to sell their properties, but also add a flight option for clients coming directly to their website. So this is our white label solution. And hotel partnerships. So in our hotel, I lead the hotel partnerships team for the UK and Ireland. What my team does is I have market managers taking care of every destination across all of the UK and Ireland, a dedicated market manager with who interacts with the hotel partners that we have and will advise them on the best way to market their hotel in terms of our holidays, flash sales, city breaks, and our top secret program. All of these things I can talk to you individually about. So how is our business broken up currently? So at the moment, because of the increases we've seen with the flight options that we have through our new ownership, much more of our business is sun and beach. So into Mallorca, into the Costas, into the Canary Islands, Dubai, and so on. But still, 60% of our business is city. But the big difference now between how we were at the inception and today is that 71% of our business now is package. And that's as an average across all of our destinations. Into Dublin, as an example, it's 80%. Into Belfast, it's slightly lower, it would be about 75%. But so that's package business is really where it's all at for us at the moment. Only 29% in this particular graph is hotel only. So the final wheel on the right is quite an important one. Our previous owners, our new owners before acquiring lastminute.com were entirely dependent on third-party supply, meaning that they only used Bedbanks to supply the accommodation for their packages. By buying lastminute.com, they then had direct supply. But today, only 66% of our business is direct, but we're still reliant on Bedbanks for 34% of our business. Now, this is an important point because it means that a lot of if I don't have a direct agreement with your hotel currently, your hotel is almost definitely still appearing on our website through one of those Bedbanks. So where is that market share coming from? As things stand today, 55% of the business is still coming from the UK. That is, it would have been a few years ago, just 5 years ago, that would have been nearer 80 or 90%. But it hasn't decreased, it's just that we're increasing dramatically from Germany, Italy, Spain, and France. Our top 20 destinations are in that order, starting with Mallorca, ending with Berlin. Dublin, strange enough, is 22 on that list, so it's just missing from there. Having said that, this is not factoring in seasonality. Dublin would now probably be around number 15. Belfast, I will admit, is much further down the list, but is still a considerable destination for us. Moving on. Yep, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Last but by no means least, representing Booking.com. He's back from last year as well. Alan Bullock. Alan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to Cormac and the team for the invite back today. After last year, I wasn't sure if I would be back. So 5 minutes, actually 4 minutes, because I've got a 1 minute video. So I'm going to try and speak quickly. For those who know me, that's not the easiest thing for me to do. So Booking.com, I'm going to have a snapshot of ourselves and then some information specific to OTAs in general and just about the benefits of working with OTAs. So a quick bit of myself. I've been with Booking.com for just over 4 years. I look after the account management team in Scotland and Northern Ireland. We have with us today Tricia, who specifically looks after Northern Ireland, and Gemma, who looks after the wider region, which is Scotland and all of Ireland, and will be available obviously later on. Myself, I'm born and raised in Glasgow. Never made it out. I think it's an accent thing. No one really understands me out with Glasgow, so I just stay there. I've got 3, soon to be 4 children, hence the fact there's no hobbies or anything listed there. Golf and football quickly went out the window after 1, never mind 3 or 4. So enough about me. Booking.com, just a brief snapshot. We've actually been around a bit of a while now, 23 years. We've grown to 30 property types, including everything from igloos, tree houses, to more standard issue hotels. Quite a lot of information in there, so I won't go into too much detail. We've got 28 million listings. On a daily basis, we book on average 1.6 million room nights per day. There's more than 18,000 of us working on the consumer side and also the partnership side. And last year we became part of Booking Holdings, which incorporates Kayak, Rental Cars, Agoda, and OpenTable. So now some more general information. This is the data isn't specific to Booking.com, but OTAs in general. So I'm going to talk about the power of choice and advantages of diversifying your online distribution. First of all, we live in an era of powerful customers. Why are they powerful? Primarily it's due to technology. That technology, assuming they have an internet or Wi-Fi connection, within seconds they can look at 5, 10, 50 websites, different countries, different variations. The choice at their fingertips is absolutely huge, and that can be quite frightening. I remember the day where you went into a travel agent and you chose between 200 or 300 hotels, and you had one picture of that hotel to gamble on that it looked good. It was either the frontage or the pool, and what you didn't see you had doubts about, but now everything is at the hand of the consumer within seconds. So what does that mean? On average, consumers visit up to 7 travel sites before booking a trip. Some other data, 86% find it important to compare prices from different sites. 84% find it important to buy from brands that they're familiar with. So customers have the power of choice, but as properties or establishments, you have the power to decide where you want to list. So the bookers can see all of these and many more websites, and you have the choice to where you want to list, what type of customer you want to attract, what country do you want to attract from. You can adapt your offering and different platforms to achieve that. So how can you make sure potential guests see your property? Guidance would be direct distribution. There's very obvious reasons why direct is crucial from a cost perspective. Also indirect distribution, I've mentioned ourselves alongside Expedia and Airbnb. Obviously that's just a few examples of a huge number. And a mix of these diverse channels. I'll go into the billboard effect shortly, but there's advantages for direct business from listing with OTAs. So why so important? 35% of direct bookings come from OTAs. We call it internally the billboard effect. Often bookers will use OTAs to look at content or compare one city versus another, and then when choosing a city, one hotel versus another. 35% of those bookers then drop off the OTA with a preference to book direct with the property itself. Another reason is global reach. Booking.com, as an example, translates into 43 different languages, and that is automatically translated for you. So by going on Booking.com, you immediately become available to the globe. I think I'm not sure if there's any languages we don't cover, but 43 sounds like a heck of a lot. So if somebody wants to book from China, Japan, you name it, they have access to your content in their language. It's backed up with 24/7 support, where our partnership team and consumer team will be, no one speaks 43 languages as far as I know, but across the team, we cover all 43 languages. Millennials, a crucial market for everyone. Research shows that 52% of millennials book through OTAs, and 64% of all mobile bookings come from an OTA. What I'm going to do now, I think we managed to get a video downloaded. Don't worry, it's only 60 seconds, but it gives a snapshot of how we picture things moving forward. We speak about the connected trip. People are not inclined just to book a property and then book their transport elsewhere or book different elements of the trip. There will be, or there's a desire for people to book the entire trip and have the safety of knowing the transport's going to be at the airport. They know what they want to do day one. They've been able to read about it, and they can start planning their trip and not just accommodation and then look at other aspects. The desire is to do that all in one place, and this video should hopefully touch on that.
Thank you very much indeed. Alan, thank you. Folks, this is a first for me today. I have been doing events like this for 15 years. I have never been at an event when you have 5 speakers and everyone keeps to time. So we're bang on time for coffee at 11:30. If folks want to get that ready, that would be fantastic for us. It is a wonderful place, but we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty here. Rosie, starting with you, if there is a business out there and they're thinking, why can I not just do it on my own? What's the benefit of going to you?
I think, and it's something actually all three of us have touched on, the number one benefit is definitely visibility. That alone visibility is key with an OTA. It's like I said, even if you never got a single booking from us, which is very unlikely, but if you never got a booking, you're still visible and directing people to your own brand website, because I'm sure everyone here is the same. You don't just go to one website and book on that sole website, you're shopping around. So yeah, visibility is number one.
And Alan, you made the point that it is a shop window as well, and you don't necessarily get the benefit because the website is there. They may use you as their window, but then bypass you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's an increasing pattern. I know myself, if I'm booking something, I might even like shopping, like I'll search Google or search a search tool, and then I feel like almost a loyalty to buy from the brand. So that's absolutely happening within the travel sphere as well.
Gotcha. And Joe, what I was interested in all that you said, but you know, your point about you've been around for more than 20 years here. I mean, in your experience, do you really think a business can do without a platform like yours?
Well, I believe every property should do both. You have to go after your own business yourself. But the benefit of an OTA, quite aside from the fact that you have this massive global audience, the content that you provide is translated into every language. You know, so it's very much a localized content for the audience. So in Italy, it's there in Italian for people to see, but it's your words. It's the words that you provided to that OTA, and the content, the images are identical. So it would seem to me, I understand that there's a cost involved, but there's a cost involved in going after clients yourself. So it's very much a question of balancing the two. So I would say yes, absolutely. Everyone should be working with a wide variety of OTAs, not just me.
Okay, it's very generous.
Oh,
Speaking of the cost, if we go on to Slido, we can see one of the questions that has been asked is about commission. It's one of the most, if you see there are different tabs, you can go on to the most popular questions which have been asked and the most recent. One of the most recent, anonymous at 10:35 a.m., how do we reduce commission so that we can make as much profit on each booking as the OTA? John, you brought up the whole issue of cost. Do you mind taking that one?
no, not at all. Commission is negotiable with ourselves. I can't speak for my colleagues on the other side, but it's certainly negotiable at lastminute.com. And our market managers are always encouraged to engage with suppliers to come up with what makes them happy. You know, there's a limited amount that we can do if the commission is too low. So there is a cut-off point. But that cut-off point is very much open to discussion, and it will vary by hotel. But if you want to compete with a hotel that is, let's say, I'll pluck a figure out of the air, which is always dangerous, but if, for example, I have a hotel that's on 17% and you come along wanting their business and you're only offering me 12%, then, you know, listen, we're all in business here. So that's the bottom line.
Thank you. Rosie, anything on this?
Yeah, I think even if you look at the wider picture, one of the stats I had in there was that demand for Northern Ireland with Expedia is actually up 16% year on year, and that doesn't happen just by us displaying hotels on a website. There's a lot of marketing push that comes from our side, and that costs a lot. So, I mean, commission, there's twofold. It's the type of business that we're bringing for you, but also thinking of Northern Ireland as a whole, as a destination. You're competing with Scotland, England, whatever it might be. It's very much about promoting the destination, which is also needs to be factored into the initial cost as well.
Thank you. Alan?
I would say the best way to reduce commission is to grow direct business. Direct business is relying on the performance of your own website, how compatible that is from a language perspective or a mobile perspective, would be the best way to look at it. If you need additional occupancy, and you have spare rooms and you take more business from OTAs, the hope would be that the commission offsets the risk of having an empty room. So it'd be best to look at it across the direct and OTA model.
Thank you. And John, you talked about the issue of this issue being negotiable, and it won't be the same for everyone else. It brings us into the whole other issue of contact and accessibility. It's not like the high street used to be with travel agents as such, less so now. In terms of people getting in contact, we're going to talk about complaints in a second, but just generally, if people want to establish a relationship with all three of you, could just tell us how we do that?
Well, break the ice today. If there isn't an existing relationship, then by all means, let's get the ball rolling. But I, within my own team, have designated market managers who take specific responsibility for geographical areas. So there are people who have responsibility for Northern Ireland in general, and certainly I would say, and I encourage them too, to build relationships with their suppliers, but that is a two-way relationship. So, and that is crucial because, for example, the order in which hotels appear on site on lastminute.com is very much in the hands of the market manager. There are criteria, but he does have control of that. I know that some other companies use algorithms to govern that. We don't. We still have the personal touch.
Okay, we'll come on to that. That's a good one. Rosie, in terms of contact?
Well, I am actually the face for Expedia in Northern Ireland, so it is my job to get my face out there and visit hotels individually. Like I said, I've recently taken over since the start of October, so I've been on a bit of a whirlwind trip of the country. But yeah, if you haven't met me before, feel free to come up and say hello today. I'll give you all the contact details you need. And I myself, I'm based in the Dublin office at the minute, but I'm generally on the road 2-3 days out of the week. So I'm up here quite often as well.
And before I bring Alan in, back onto the issue of complaints, there have been a number of questions about people. Are you the go-to person if something goes wrong as well?
Yeah. Throw whatever you want at me. I'll find some sort of solution for it. I mean, on the complaint side of things, obviously we want to try and avoid negative reviews, complaints in general. And one tool that we do actually have with Expedia is real-time feedback. So for example, Mark, if you check in, you're with Expedia, you go to your room, we'll actually send you a push notification with a short survey that you can fill out. If, for example, your room's too hot, you fill out the survey to say that. That goes directly back to the hotel. It stays completely internal. It's not online. But the purpose of it is actually to give the property the opportunity to kind of rectify any immediate issues that may have arisen, so that at the end of the day, it's solved internally and they're not actually going out and writing bad reviews or complaining.
And that's part of the deal, is it?
That's part of the deal, yeah.
That's not extra?
No, it's in there. So if you're in the Expedia action, it's under guest reviews and real-time feedback, and it's in there. You can actually set that up as well to send direct notifications. So if you have anyone that tends to look after social media or anything like that, it's good to get their email address linked up to that.
The people in the room are probably very different to me, but I'm thinking, is that more hassle for me? Do I need to get set up in some new system?
I mean, it depends. It depends. If you've found you've had issues with complaints before, or maybe issues with reviews, definitely give it a go. It's a very manageable tool.
Okay, thank you. Alan?
Yeah, for us, it's very much about speed and accessibility. Like, we should never have anyone holding, waiting for a response to a complaint. So from a local perspective, your contact would be Tricia, who I mentioned earlier. If Tricia's not available, that will flip over to someone in the local office. If it's out with working hours, it will flip over to the London office and then around the world. So you should never phone call and not have a response, which is obviously eradicates any frustration. That I think people, when they make a complaint, expect a real-time response, and that's what we work around rather than having people holding for feedback.
Gotcha. John, we're rattling through these. The other issue which has come up, folk will see on slido.com, is this whole issue of where do I appear in the kind of pecking order when people do a search. You mentioned, tell us again about, it's not algorithms, there's something...
Yeah, so in the majority of cases with OTAs, I believe it's an algorithm. So that algorithm will have various criteria built into it that will govern where you appear in search. That is something we're working towards, but we don't have it currently. So as things stand today, the market manager still makes a decision.
Right.
Based on strength of relationship, location, value for money, many criteria that are also built into any algorithm, but we have a human rather than an algorithm. So if you have a strong relationship with the market manager, and you're a regular participant in our flash sales or any marketing activity that we have running, then you will be well ranked.
Is it the economy of scale, though, to an extent that if you're a smaller player, chances are you're not going to be near the top?
Not always.
Really?
Not always. It would very much depend. Again, it is relationship based. So there are humans involved here, and if a hotel only has 25 rooms, but they're a really strong participant with a great, one-on-one relationship with the market manager, there's no reason in the world why they shouldn't be well placed.
Dare I say it, it's like any other business that, the face-to-face contact, the relationships, they matter even on the online world.
They completely matter. In fact, they're the most important thing of all, really, for me.
Some things never change. Rosie, what about you in terms of how folk know where they're going to be on the running order?
From an Expedia point of view, it's purely algorithm.
Okay.
It's very much initially dependent on the content that you have on the website. So making sure that your photos are up to scratch, that your amenities and things are filled out. After that, very much dependent on who might be offering a promotion, but the actual order is completely up to whatever the algorithm chooses, which I think is important, especially if we look at Belfast, where there has been so many new properties that have come on the market since the start of even last year. We have to make the playing field as level and as fair as we possibly can. So, completely up to the algorithm.
Okay, thank you. Alan?
Yeah, like it is algorithm based. What we've changed, we call it internally dynamic ranking. A couple of
Say
years.
it again, sorry.
Dynamic ranking.
Ooh,
Yeah.
phrase of the day.
Yeah, so far.
Okay, so far.
So a couple of years back, if you imagine, if you went onto booking.com and searched Belfast or Northern Ireland, the same properties would typically appear at the
Yes.
top. They would maybe be chain, 4-star, large hotels.
Yes.
And if I went on or yourself went on, you would both see the same order. It's changed now almost into like an Amazon or Netflix model where, dependent on what your previous search history is, if you always search for hostels, it will push those hostels up towards the top and like less likely properties to be booked further down. So it's fairness, and it allows the booker to get what they typically need without searching through pages and pages. So that's like another fold within the algorithm. It's not level for everyone. It's dependent on the booker's needs.
Okay, okay. And if somebody, and again, these are the questions that folk are asking out there. If somebody's thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind a wee go at this for a couple of months or a couple of weeks or maybe give it a year. John, is there a trial that you can do? How long do you have to sign up for? What's the story there?
No, again, this is very much open to discussion. I would suggest that if you're going to do something with us, that you don't say, okay, well, look, you know what, January and February are traditionally really awful, so I'm going to do it then, and come March when things pick up, I'm going to dump them like a hot potato. You can't do that. I mean, there's got to be a two-way street. So I would suggest that if you're going to do something, that it run across that seasonality, so that we get a bite as well as you getting a bite. If you take the advice of the market manager who says that perhaps, look, let's run it for 3 months. Let's have a promotion that is stay 2 nights, 15% off, stay 3 nights, 20% off. Whatever he suggests or she suggests, go with it, give it a try if it suits. And if it doesn't, there is no, you're not committing yourself to, even to the 3 months. If you're not happy with it after 2, pull out. That's fine. We're not going to hold it against you. We might not listen as intently next time you ask for one, but it has to be a reciprocal arrangement.
It's a serious point, though, because that goes back to what you're talking about, a relationship.
But as I say, that relationship must be two-way.
Yeah.
You don't want fair weather friends any more than we want fair weather.
And it's equal partnership then.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to work 2 ways.
Yeah. Rosie, what about you guys?
From an Expedia point of view, no sign-up or exit fees would be the number one thing.
No sign-up fees, no exit fees. Okay.
And if you were to enter into a contract with us, there's a 14-day release period on that. So that just needs an official notice in writing at any point in time. And after 14 days, you're gone, which we want to try and avoid, but it's there.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that for anyone that doesn't currently work with Expedia but is interested, I'm the market manager for pre-existing hotels that already work with us, but there is another version of me down in Dublin at the minute that works with the acquisition piece. And I know they're very open to kind of getting the discussion going to see what works for you. I mean, in terms of length of time you'd want to give it, it's very much dependent on where the property is located, what we know the statistics to be, what the average booking window is, what type of customer we're bringing in there. So that's all information that you're able to get from us so that we can kind of put a strategy in place that'll put it in black and white to see, how long you need to be for what type of model, X, Y, and Z.
Gotcha.
Could I just add,
yes, of course, John.
because just to go back,
Yes.
I thought the question was referring to hotels we're already working with who now want to do something in addition to what are already.
No.
If we're talking about hotels newly
Newbies.
signing up, newbies, different story.
Okay, sorry.
If a newbie wants to come on, again, there's no sign-up fee and there's no exit fee, but
Yeah.
I'd be very cognizant of the hotels I'm already working with in that region, that if a new player is coming into the market, what effect it will have on those existing.
Good point.
Yeah, so I'm not going to just allow somebody to come in to snap up the business in low season and then leave us in high season, if you follow what I mean.
I do.
So, no, I would advise my market managers, or if I was talking to the hotel myself, and say, well, look, if you're going to come in, we'll do it at a time that suits everybody, but you really... If they decide they're going to leave, they can leave. We're not going to stop anybody from leaving, but it wouldn't reflect well.
Okay, good point.
So that's it.
Alan.
Yeah, similar to, there's no minimum term of contract, there's no fees to join or leave. If asked for guidance, I would lean towards minimum 12 months just because of different booking patterns. Like, I'm often asked, are you busy, are you busy, are you busy? Like, people tend to ask me that in summer when people are travelling. But for ourselves, when people are booking, like, our largest booking days are generally early January when people return and start thinking. But when you're working globally, like the Chinese market like to travel in May and October, and they like to book fairly last minute. So to have 12 months gives you a picture of how it actually works rather than going on for a short period during the year.
Gotcha. And any of you, I'm sorry about keeping the same order, poor John's getting all the first questions. You bring up the whole issue of not newbies, people who maybe are already on a lot of platforms and they're feeling, is there anything more? Is there a turbocharge? Is there a boost? Is there any particular type of promotion that's really kind of in at the moment? Would anybody have any advice on somebody who's kind of trying to sort of kickstart things again, even though they may be on these platforms? John?
Yeah. We have regular promotions, flash sales. Yeah, there's always something happening. So again, that's your relationship with the market manager. And always pick up the phone or send a quick email to that market manager and say, have you got anything coming up? Is there anything more that we can do? And there always is something we can do. And it might be as simple as give you better ranking if you give us an extra 10% off on a package rate, for example.
Gotcha.
Yeah, tactical deals are something that we would look for you to embrace when you've got everything else in place, like not have them rescuing gaps, but say, for example, tomorrow's Black Friday. So if you have a window within January, February and March where you look at your occupancy and it's 20, 30, a worryingly low percentage, then look to tools like that to try and fill that occupancy rather than rely on like a kind of sales model.
Okay. Rosie, just fine. And then I'm going to go to the floor if people have questions, if they catch my eye.
Yeah, I'd say very much similar to what Alan just said. As my role as a market manager, I mean, we have 20 different options that we can give to you in terms of promotions or whatever it might
20.
be. Even more, I'd say. But you have to protect your ADR to some extent. There's no point in going out there and offering a 50% discount just to get heads on bed. So I suppose my role is very much meeting face-to-face with the properties, having a look at the statistics, comparing that against competitors, comparing that against competing destinations, and then working with the booking windows to fill gaps or to build in base where we need it.
Okay. I'm showing my ignorance here, and you can tell I'm the only one that's not actually involved in the tourism industry in the room. But Black Friday for hotels, yeah?
Massive.
Really?
Massive.
Yeah.
I think for
Really?
the Expedia side of things, we're a US company. So this is one of our biggest booking opportunities of the entire year.
Right.
And I think for the first time, actually, it's starting to become more of a localized thing as well.
Okay.
It definitely seems like within the last week, there was a little bit of a drop-off and hesitancy to book because we can tell that the local market is kind of playing it easy just to see what kind of deals are on offer. So absolutely bank on Black Friday if you can.
There we go.
Yeah.
Every day is a school day. Right, folks. Who has got a question? I'm going to wander. And if you know me, be afraid. Be very, very afraid. I think there's a guy from Fermanagh in this room who isn't very shy and retiring, who maybe runs a hotel, which is certainly a fantastic hotel. I've stayed there many times. Terry McCartney, anything you would like to ask our panel?
Yeah, thank you very much for the information. I had put a little question, Slido. You mentioned earlier on, one of your contributors mentioned about the fact that on a £100 bedroom, by the time we pay 20% VAT and pay you guys 15%, you're making probably more money than we are out of it. And I can understand that in terms of the marketing platform you have and the amount of money that you spend getting new customers. My question is that, would you consider that if a customer rebooks, they're rebooking because they like my property, but they may be using your platform to book, so would you reduce the commission for somebody staying a second or third time? I know I'm trying to get them to book direct, but obviously you guys have put many millions of pounds into your booking platform. So instead of charging the 15 to 20% you would for initial booking, for the second or third time, could that go down to 5%? So you're providing the conduit, but I'm still providing the experience. Would that be a consideration for the panel?
I think it's a good point. Dynamic commission is not something that we have at the minute. It's very much a baseline nationally. It's a great idea, though. I'll take that one back. But even to go back to what you said initially, Terry, I think it's important to look at the type of business that we're bringing you specifically and how that kind of compares with your direct business as well. So when we were looking at the ADR yield graph that I had, if there's opportunity for us to bring you in business as soon as possible so that you're capitalising that higher ADR, then minus all those little bits, hopefully we'll be coming out on an even platform. But on the dynamic commission thing, I'll take that one back. It's a good point.
Yeah, really good point. And it's something that I'll take back. I know that I can imagine or start to imagine the frustration of us providing you with a booking, you build a relationship with them, market to them, and then they come back through our platform would definitely stick in the throat. So it's something that, yeah, great point, well made, and it's something that I'd like to consider. Not myself personally, but like feedback to the team.
Similar. Again, it's something I'd never even thought of, so good to get a hotelier's perspective on it. I wasn't aware that was such a problem. Perhaps it is, a bigger problem than I thought. It could be something that could work, but again, we'll see what kind of reception I get if I bring it up.
Thank you. Happy enough, Terry?
If everybody's going to consider it, maybe in 3 months' time we can go back and say, well, listen, let's look at that. And listen, I work with both Expedia and Booking.com, and we work well. You fill rooms for me. Not with last minute at the moment, but I like that your rates are sort of negotiable. I like that. So I mean, anything that'll help us be a better customer to you as well as the guest itself would be a benefit.
I would add, I'm not familiar with which property you represent.
Belmore Court Motel, Temple Road, Enniskillen, www.
I would say 99.9% sure you are on lastminute.com through a third party.
Well, that's good to hear. Folks, that's a good start to our questions from the floor. As we see, Terry's not afraid to put it out there. Anyone else got a question? Here we are. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if the different booking platforms attract a different demographic, for instance, young families or empty nesters or whatever.
Yeah, I can take this one.
Yeah.
We do find that. I think even if we look at our three biggest brands, Expedia is very much US based for us, very much empty nesters, I would say as well, whereas hotels.com is very much geared towards the millennials, and you'll find that even the hotels.com branding that you'd see on the TV and everything, it's very much millennial focused. I think their whole focus at the minute is on FOMO, so the fear of missing out. So yeah, we definitely, and I suppose that's the reason why we have so many brands. We actually have over 200, but it's because we can recognise that each of them have an individual strength in either, whether it's a specific country or a specific demographic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's something we're actually looking at again more recently because we've been through such flux in the last few years under our new ownership and with these entirely new markets coming to, or growing markets from France, Spain, Italy. We need to look at that in more depth. Traditionally, it was, we had a handle on it, but we don't really have a great handle on it at the moment, so it is something we're looking at. But it's very diverse.
Yeah, I would say from a device perspective, we tend to invest more where there's increased growth in bookings. So like mobile currently is attracting a lot of attention, would be the angle we would take. From a country perspective, we market like globally. We've started recently getting involved, for example, in Cricket World Cup and the Euros next year, like more investment into like that side of things to grow our overall base. We wouldn't claim to be particularly strong in one country. We look for gaps in where we can grow, and that hopefully in turn helps broaden your reach when you're on booking.com.
Gotcha. Any more questions from the floor? Thank you very much indeed. I was just about to ask the Brexit question, so you've just saved the audience. If you don't mind saying who you are and who you represent as well, I should have said that. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Anna, and we represent Belfast Cottages. So we have overnight accommodation for 20 people. But my question is about self-catering. Basically, where does self-catering come into this all? And in regards to the packages and all the stats you had there for that, where does self-catering come into that? We create quite a personal experience. We have like a traditional Ulster cottage and a few more modern as well. So we do find it's very personal, and basically where does that come into your packages, or is that just large hotel chains that you provide that package sort of stat with, like Hilton or whatever? Is that self-catering as well?
I can take this one. So the cottages would kind of fall under VR for us, so vacation rentals. And I suppose in terms of how those are displayed on the website, you have equal opportunity against all of those big brands. It doesn't matter if you're up against a Hilton, you have opportunity to be displayed at the top. In terms of packages and things like that, most likely you are visible on the package path. The point that I was trying to get at is whether there's room to do promotions and things on packages and things like that, but I'm speaking on kind of an overall basis. It's very much dependent on yourselves. I'm sure you know what your pricing strategy is and where there's room, so you're never going to be forced to take part in anything like that, but it's more so just about making sure that you're actually visible, that the properties are being represented as they actually are, and if then there's any gaps that we can potentially help you to fill, then that's when we can have a look at boosting it through packages.
From a lastminute.com perspective, yes, I would admit that our market managers are focused mostly on hotel product, some apartment, and larger properties, basically. Where it's a smaller property or it doesn't fall into the categories I just mentioned, then we will still feature your property, but it will be bought in through a third party.
For ourselves is twofold. The first part I've kind of covered, like if someone typically looks for cottages or holiday homes, that's relatively new that the cottages will appear towards the top of the page or towards the top of the search. So that's one. The other element is when I spoke about the connected trip, I think more so for vacation rentals, there's like a requirement for trust from the booker. Like if we lay on a taxi from the hotel to the cottage, like is more of an important concept than, like you mentioned, like a brand website where they'll know that that's in the centre of town and they'll know they'll be able to get there, but there's a real trust on the path for the booker to be confident that that cottage is accessible and has everything they need around it and experiences to do around it also.
Thanks, Alan. We have about 5 minutes till coffee. I'm going to have a quick look at the phone just to make sure I haven't missed anything from Slido, but I was only half joking about the B word. Was it you, Rosie, that said that in spite of Brexit, the demand has gone up 16%? Yeah. I just wanted to ask any of you, looking ahead to the next year, Alan, you had mentioned the Euros and things like that, and the fact, it's been such a good 12 months with the Open and the golf and things like that. What are you seeing for the next 12 months in the market, locally, internationally, anything to look out for? And we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing growth in demand. We do see fluctuations as different announcements get made. Typically the day after or a couple of days after, it might have like a slight downturn, but overall I would say that the UK and Ireland's proven particularly popular, and people within the UK and Ireland are confident in travelling abroad, so we don't see, it's difficult to forecast going forward, but as yet we've not seen any huge impact.
Gotcha.
I would say that we're not seeing any massive impact. I wouldn't say there's anything certainly negative coming out of it. And again, my figures might be slightly skewed by the fact that we're seeing such growth from mainland European destinations. I would say that perhaps GB is not growing at the rate that I would like to see it growing into Ireland in general, the island of Ireland, whereas it is growing dramatically from elsewhere.
Do you know why?
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Makes no sense.
Well, it makes sense if you look at the fact that we're under new ownership by a company that has representation in all of those countries. So we would naturally expect to see those markets growing. But yeah, so it's encouraging that they are. GB not growing quite as much as I would like.
Okay, and Rosie?
I mean, in terms of Brexit and the effect, the only thing that I've really seen in terms of stats-wise at the minute is maybe a shortening of the booking window in the run-up to the deadlines. But as soon as the deadline is passed, the last-minute pickup has been astronomical. So I know the next deadline's at the end of January. So my focus with hotels at the minute is very much right, we know this is coming, we don't want this booking window to shorten dramatically for a third time. What can we do now to prevent that? And I suppose on the broader picture for 2020, I mean, our stats, our UK stats are up 17% year on year, so it's still looking quite healthy, like similar to John said there. So we don't see any disasters happening with Brexit. It's all looking quite nice. So I think getting the base business in now is what's important.
Well, why wouldn't you come here? Just look at that outside. If people over coffee want to go for a quick walk, we're going to go, I would say we'll have coffee for about 20 minutes. I'm just going to give you all, you've been very honest and you've given us your time, and thanks for coming over. Just if there was one message you wanted to leave us with, any top tip, any of the issues that we've talked about. John, you're always getting the first go.
And again.
And again. Right. What would you say before coffee?
I would say talk to us. Talk to the market managers. Market managers, you have to remember, they set targets. It's absolutely to their advantage to talk to you, to drive more business into your properties. So they're there to help. That's what I've said.
Alan?
Yeah, for myself, obviously, we're talking about the OTA channels, but I'm sure everyone is passionate about the direct channels. The analytics available on OTA channels and where your bookers are coming from and when they're booking can be a great guide for you to build into your direct marketing. So use the information that we provide and what bookers are doing to build your own marketing campaigns.
Speaking of analytics, I don't know, maybe it isn't analytics. A question I forgot to ask. Somebody was saying about, is there any keywords that whenever you're writing your brief, any keywords that you got to hammer out, or is it just the obvious ones? Anybody on that?
From our perspective, how we display hotels and how you kind of identify certain things like that, it's very much a tick box exercise. So there's not room for much customization, but that's down to the fact that we need it to be a level playing field for all hotels. So it's very much just tick, 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 and that's you done. There's nowhere to kind of put in keywords or anything like that. And that brings us another point very, very quickly. I'm getting eaten into coffee time. You can't say we are the best. No. I've seen it before, a few hotels putting up sneaky photos with text on it that says #1 hotel here, but no, it's very much, it's a level playing field. It's fair. Doesn't matter if you're my favourite hotel in the entire country. I can't put you at #1, unfortunately. Okay. But that's how we prefer it to be. And
Rosie, you had the first word, you've got the last word before coffee. What would you say?
Yeah, I would say definitely, like John said, talk to me, say hello. But I think moving into 2020 is keep thinking ahead. Think of your booking windows, think of which nationalities you want to chase. If it's US, Canadian, those type of guys, you're looking at about a 70-day to 90-day booking window, so get ahead of the curve now.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel, thank you all very much indeed. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, John. Thanks, Rosie. Folks, they're going to be around, as you know, over coffee, but the more formal window will be after we've finished over lunch. But as I say, we're going to go for about a 20-minute coffee break, and we'll see you back here in 20 minutes. Thank you.